Hello Internet. Yes, I'm doing this with text-to-speech. I tried doing this with my own voice, but I have trouble speaking and was making too many mistakes. Forgive me for this. If you're subscribed to this channel, you've probably seen animations of mine with shifted duology somewhere in the title. They're all contained in a playlist of the same name, and most are unlisted due to quality issues. However, the newest one, labeled as an official trailer, links to a 98-chapter fanfiction on AO3, and this is the beast we'll be discussing today. As quickly as I can summarize, the shifted duology is a horror-based Undertale AU that centralizes around themes of human experimentation. And, whatever scenario you're thinking of right now, I guarantee it's worse. The story goes that in 2015, roughly 25 years before the events of the fanfic, Toby Fox discovered the multiverse. Research methods were long debated, and eventually one man stepped forward with the idea of using humans as test subjects. Of course, he was rejected and disgraced for this, so he struck out on his own and built a facility where for 15 years he turned humans into monsters, before meeting his end to a small, white dog. Of course, nearly all of these humans were turned into various versions of Sans, as he's objectively the most prevalent monster in the multiverse and his anatomy is close enough to that of humans so the changes won't, kill them. But, a decade after Mystery Evil Guy's death, the research facility continues to operate under his apprentice, Zagan, who's tortured with prophetic dreams involving a chroma soul appending all these years of work. And, before you ask, a chroma soul is someone with every soul trait. Similar to how the person with the most determination can reset the timeline, the most powerful chroma can rewind time. And this is where we meet our main character, Ren, an eager multiverse theorist with a mind for science and an ever-so-small celebrity crush on Underswap Sans. Under the guise of friendship, Zagan leads Ren into a small, seemingly abandoned building. She gifts her a blueberry cosplay, and yes, they still do cosplay in this world, before cryptically telling her that she and Blue will be together forever. Before Ren can react, a needle is jabbed into her neck and so begins a long and grueling transformation. Zagan mocks her the whole time, eventually making her pass out with chloroform. Ren, now stuck in Blue's body, wakes up in a small apartment. She quickly realizes signs of life being shown, and is promptly greeted, much to her surprise, by Dream Sans. Not knowing if this is the real deal or a fellow transformation subject, she introduces herself as Blueberry. Dream catches onto her negativity and provides a shoulder to cry on before leading her upstairs to her room. Upon waking up, Ren is convinced this was all a nightmare. However, the sight and sound of her own bones jolt her back into reality, causing a panic attack, to which Dream quickly comes to her aid. After calming down, the two chat over breakfast. Ren badgers Dream with questions, and he reveals that he is, indeed, a transformation subject. Not only that, but his human name was Saul and he's been this way for a decade. It's not mentioned in the text, but he was 11 when he was changed. Most of the subjects are taken young, including Ren. Anyway, Dream reveals that Zagan experiments on the subjects that she changes, and he essentially acts as a tool for exposition. At least, until something strange happens with Ren's soul. It's normal for some of the soul to be taken over during and after the transformation, but not all of it. Ren's soul is still shifting toward the nature of Blue's, which is in the range of normalcy, but Dream is concerned about her unwillingness to fight the changes. After a few days of this, Ren begins to act slightly more like Blueberry. Deciding she needs a bit of fresh air, Dream takes her to the central gathering space to meet other changed subjects. The numbers on the elevator reveal that the place they're in is a massive complex that stretches deep underground. Here we meet Saladin, Libby, and Adwin, who have been turned into classic Sans, Cross, and Ink respectively. The former two are very friendly, but Ink doesn't interact with the rest and gives off an air of passive hostility. After some friendly banter, Ren confesses to Classic that she's considering letting Blue's soul take over her own. He's understandably horrified by this, and we as readers briefly get the sense that it triggers horrible memories for him. When Ren and Dream return to their quarters, they're greeted by Zagan. She takes Ren to do some simple tests, before revealing that she added a chemical to the injection that enabled her soul to change quickly. As Zagan speaks, one of the tests seems to go wrong, making Ren's soul unstable and causing her to vomit and pass out. When she regains consciousness, Dream is in the room with her, and her soul has nearly changed completely. The two debate over whether or not she can come back from this, before Ren begins to speak in rhyme, echoing the inverse of a prophecy that has plagued Zagan's dreams for years, before passing out once more. Dream and Zagan are both shocked by her words. The former spirals, while the latter wakes Ren up. When she does, her personality has completely shifted. Zagan bursts into maniacal laughter at her new discovery, leaving the two skeletons in hopeless misery. A couple filler chapters later, Ren goes through a nightmare that completely fucks up her mind and essentially locks away her humanity. Dream, being the empath he is, suggests a sleepover to monitor her soul. Before they can do that, though, they go to the gathering space to meet up with their friend group. Here, Nightmare, who we were introduced to during the filler chapters, picks up on the negativity Ren's locked away humanity holds, and calls Dream over to discuss. It's quickly revealed that the two used to be in love before their transformations. Yeah, incest, boo me now, leave your mean comments, hit dislike, click off, whatever. Between the whole, being genetically identical, thing and Nightmare's nature, they can't exactly have a relationship, but Nightmare, whose real name is Takala by the way, tries his best to be tender and comforting. Back at Dream's apartment, Ren notices odd carvings in the wall of her bedroom, tally marks, left by someone long gone. Dream gets nervous when they're pointed out and refuses to explain them, leaving the room. The two have a brief confrontation, before Undertale Sans appears in the doorway. He tells Ren that his old name was Aster, laments about choosing to shift his soul, and tells her to let Dream know he's happy now. When Ren relays the info, Dream completely breaks. Aster had been the first person he'd failed to save, and it's looking like he won't be the last. That night, the two share a dream, where Ren relays her plan to sacrifice herself to Zagan in exchange for the lives of the other test subjects. When Zagan arrives the next morning, she puts this plan into action. Zagan agrees despite Dream's protests, and leads Ren into a gas chamber. She intends to erase her memories, and is sadistic enough to make Dream watch. Dream tries to comfort Ren during the process despite Zagan's teasing. Eventually she succumbs to the gas, waking up completely bluified and only remembering a pacifist timeline. Dream is completely broken mentally by this point, willing to do anything to bring Ren back. Zagan brings in Underswap Papyrus, well, you know. Someone who was turned into him, to quell Blue's new anxieties. Swappy is utterly confused, and Blue acts as expected. During the period in which Blue is consumed by his memories, we explore a couple other points of view. First up is Ink, who assumes he's being summoned for an experiment before Zagan announces that he's going to be made human again. He's as shocked as he can be with his relative lack of emotions, but hopeful all the same. The change back goes smoothly, and he's given an artificial soul so he can feel emotions on his own again. That is, until he starts throwing up paint in the middle of the night. He's turning back into a monster. Zagan reveals that, with the findings from Ren's transformation, she's constructed a new version of the transformation serum that comes with automatic soul shift and makes the subject love their new form. Why is she testing it on the soulless guy? I don't know, she's just a little stupid like that. It's a plot hole, roll with it. But wait, there's more. He's not turning into the same version of Ink that he was before. He's getting turned into Pale. If you don't know, because he's kind of obscure, he's Ink without his vials and goes around destroying universes and draining them of creativity. So, on top of being soulless and loving his new body whenever he can feel, Adwin also has the instinct to destroy. That totally won't come up later. The next point of view we explore is that of Coda, who was only 6 years old when his sister died in the experiments and he got turned into Beats Sans. I should probably mention that he was deaf before the change and Beats has super hearing, so he's constantly overstimulated. Despite being in the facility for 7 years, his soul is pure, because his sister's spirit protects him. Coda hears Adwin transforming and goes to check on him, finding him in a holding cell. He gets him some liquid creativity, only to be told the horrifying truth: Adwin loves his new self. Determined to help, Coda promises to reverse the effects of the serum. Back with Blue, Dream employs Coda to find the frequency of his remaining humanity. All he's able to pick up on are dying shreds of determination. Zagan appears a week later, intending to use her new serum on Blue. I swear, this woman is just the personification of I can't decide by Scissor Sisters. As Ren is returned to her human state, Dream can't help but be amazed. Not knowing the danger, the two go to sleep, only for Ren to wake up transforming very similarly to Adwin. Zagan quickly incapacitates Dream so she can have Ren all to herself. A few days after the change, Zagan takes Blue and Pale to the stage in the gathering space to make an announcement: if someone tries to rebel, they will have the new serum used on them in order to pacify them. Classic objects, taking the moment to attack with the intent to kill. He doesn't succeed, getting shot down himself, but manages to severely injure Zagan before succumbing to his wounds. Cross is devastated by the loss of his friend, and decides to talk to someone about it, that someone being the transformed version of X-Kara that his soul is fused with. They used to be sisters before the change, and had very different opinions on the multiverse. Lamia X-Kara is kind of like that guy who thinks Undertale is stupid and overhyped and makes fun of the AS. He convinces Cross to let him have the body for a while and gets into some shenanigans, including berating a hologram version of Zagan and organizing an escape attempt. Everyone tries to escape, they fail miserably, and, assuming that Cross and Dream orchestrated this whole deal, Zagan captures Nightmare and Lamia. Because humans have determination, Lamia needs to be dealt with in a different fashion. She's separated from Cross and put in a chamber meant to overstimulate her until her soul shifts completely. The shift is visualized by her fighting a phantom version of X-Kara, and she's eventually able to resist and get out of the chamber. She and Cross reconnect, and they use the vents that lace the facility to get back to their room. Meanwhile, Nightmare is human for the day and has been allowed to stay in Dream's room while Ren is subjected to experiments. The two spend the day as Sol and Takala, going on the date they never got to have before being transformed, even if they can't do much in the facility. When it's time for them to sleep, Takala has a nightmare about her transformation and wakes up still feeling the pain. The two quickly learn that she's turning into the quote-unquote passive version of Nightmare, and won't be corrupted by negativity. Even as Takala begins to love the change, the two stay together forever, even when Sol kills her and absorbs her soul to keep her from having to suffer. The soul absorption means he loses his humanity, leaving Takala to pick up the slack. Some shenanigans happen, Ren briefly gets turned into Bluebearer, a few people die, no big deal. Takala fills Ren in on the current situation, but is interrupted by Aster teleporting into the room. Remember him? He makes some bad puns and eventually reveals he made a bargain with Zagan. Takala is reasonably upset until he tells her that he can get her a body again. They go through the process, unfusing Sol and Takala's souls and bringing both of them back, albeit with Takala being shifted by the serum. Sol, Dream, what do I call him at this point? Decides he wants to experiment, asking Aster if there's a way that he can know what Ren, Takala, and Adwin feel without changing his soul. Aster sees that there is a way, giving him a necklace he enchanted to make him feel better about being Pluto. Dream quickly forgets his mission, and Aster reports back to Zagan. Later that night, we see her being threatened by her old mentor, who continues to remain mysterious. Coda frees Dream from the necklace, and it's officially revealed that Aster is a traitor. We also see someone who was turned into Killer have another of these control necklaces forced upon him, and were introduced to the arena. Two roommates, Killer and Dust, fight each other while Coda watches in horror from the vents. He quickly realizes Killer is being controlled, and leaves to tell Dream. Upon taking the vents back to his room, he is captured by Aster. It's revealed that he's going to face off against Pale in the arena, and, knowing he doesn't stand a chance, he begs Zagan to let his friends watch the fight in the hopes that they'll come up with a way to save him. Aster goes to feed the being he's been convinced is his sister, a horrific amalgamation between a dying human and a freshified Sans. The two have an altercation, and the control necklace Zagan put on Aster is ripped off in the process. Realizing the danger Coda is in, he runs to save him. Aster jumps into the fray, saving Coda but getting killed and drained by Pale, which is kind of a fourth wall break since Pale drains creativity from AS. Before he dies, he hands Dream a passcode for the elevator, where he can supposedly find the cure for soul shift. The next day, the whole group gathers at the elevator to find the cure, including Killer, who's dragged Dust along. In predictable horror fashion, the elevator malfunctions on the way down, injuring several parties. They're led to the failed experiment that Aster encountered, and the substance that leaks from their eyes is enough to reverse the changes to their souls. After all, it was that same determination that allowed this individual to resist the change entirely. That night, everyone separately comes to the conclusion that Zagan might not be as bad as she seems and that she might be being manipulated. Coda is the first to confirm this, listening to her argue with and be tormented by the spirit of her mentor. Thinking she's been dealt with, he turns to leave, only for a sweet-smelling gas to flood the vents. Coda falls through into Swappy's room, and everyone collectively realizes the doors and elevators have been locked. Swappy attacks a panel on the door, causing a power surge which enables a mass escape. Zagan runs to stop the subjects, but is halted by Swappy. The two fight until Zagan causes the facility to self-destruct, and, locked in battle, the two die together along with most of the unnamed transformation subjects. Dust dies in the collapse, but manages to save a subject who'd been turned into fell sands. Also to survive is the failed experiment, who managed to get several vials of the transformation antidote before the facility exploded. Enough, in fact, for everyone except them and Ren. At this point we're formally introduced to Nico, who got turned into Killer, Chrysantha, who got turned into Kara and was locked inside Nico's body, and Scarlet, who was turned into Fel. The police quickly arrive at the scene of the destruction, assuming the group destroyed the complex and apprehending them. In the back of the van, Coda reveals that Zagan was being controlled by someone named Dr. Turner. Chrysantha vaguely remembers that name, but can't recall its significance. Meanwhile, Ren, who's been hiding from the cops, takes the failed experiment to the hospital and meets back up with her now human friends, who are being held in a hotel until tomorrow's trial. They slowly realize that everyone still has their magic, but decide against using it as evidence to prove their claims. When the trial happens the next day, Toby Fox attends it. He tells the group that Kelvin Turner can't be controlling Zagan, for he died a decade ago. One of the people attending, Jade, confesses they were also part of the experiments, taking off a pendant that allows them to shift into the form of Abyss Sands. After the group is proven innocent, Dr. Fox takes Ren back to his lab and turns her human again. He confesses that he was transformed into a dog by Kelvin Turner and left to explore the multiverse on his own, and turns Ren back. He informs her of Zagan's prophecy, a written copy of which was given to him by Jade, and the ability of the Chroma Soul to turn back time. Ren comes to the conclusion that with her power she can potentially save those that died in the experiments, and goes to talk to the group. They argue extensively over words and omens, ultimately deciding to go, only to be ambushed and trapped by Zagan, who has gained extraordinary powers since her death. She demonstrates this power on Ren, only stopping when given permission from Saul to turn her permanently into Blueberry. Zagan, of course, does not waste the opportunity to enact this plan, using a beta version of the serum that is far more painful and permanent. Saul and the others attempt to rescue, but are struck by sleep darts. As she transforms, the timeline begins to shift, splitting into two. Zagan, Ren, and Jade become trapped in the new offshoot while the rest remain in the original. As it turns out, in this new timeline, all skeleton monsters are biddies, and her body is quickly reshaped to match that rule. Her mental health declines to the point where Zagan, acting as her owner of sorts, takes her to the biddy dealer to get checked on. He suggests getting another biddy for company, and this is where we discover that Jade has also been changed. Together, they hatch an escape plan, but Jade doesn't make it out of Zagan's clutches in time. Upon coming back to the original timeline, Ren finds that she's still transforming. Worse, Zagan has been reanimated, and has arrived to claim her prize. She explodes the building they're in and readies a weapon that will change the whole group at once, for good. Lamia, realizing the danger, leaps out of the rubble and takes the blast at full force, turning her permanently into X-Kara and temporarily blinding her. Zagan escapes with Ren in the confusion. Ren overhears Zagan talking to Dr. Turner as the two swap places and the latter takes over control of Ren's changes. He intends to hypnotize her into accepting it, finally breaking her will, and succeeds. Zagan later breaks Ren, or, I guess I should call him Blue now, out of the cage he's been put in, profusely apologizing for her behavior and explaining the situation with Kelvin Turner. The two run for the exit, only to be intercepted by the man himself. Meanwhile, the rest of the group is under siege by an army of humanoid gaster blasters that Dr. Turner summoned. Coda is injured, and the others race to protect him, only to be confronted by Turner. He proposes a trade, Toby Fox in exchange for Blue. Unwilling to let this happen, Blue uses his special attack against Dr. Turner, but it only weakens him. With Blue in Turner's grip, Saul uses his magic to launch an arrow of positivity at him, disintegrating him. As he takes his dying breath, Jade joins the party, having escaped the other timeline. She informs him that the prophecy has been completed despite his and Zagan's best efforts. In the end, Zagan is apprehended, and the group decides to transform her the same way she did to them. A lot of names are thrown around until Adwin suggests Template, who they all agree on. And, this was before the Somewhere Else comic was released, so I didn't know he could lose his mind at times, but you know what, these kids don't know everything about the multiverse either, so who cares? She meets her end swiftly, and her memories are erased. Blue decides to go to an underswap timeline, where he meets another transformation subject in the form of Kara. There are two endings from here. The non-canon ending, where Saul convinces him and everyone from that universe to return to their own, and the canon ending, where Blue's memories and those of the people who knew him when he was human are erased. It's kind of a tragic ending, but it plays into the second part of the story. Thank you for making it this far into the video. I know text-to-speech is hard to listen to, but this is the only way I can convey this much information. Part 2 will be out eventually. Please consider subscribing if you are interested in this AU. And be sure to check it out on AO3. I will be making a lot more content for it.